Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. We have just had UFC 307, Alex Pereira versus Khalil Rountree Jr, and this card did not disappoint. We had Mario Bautista solidifying himself as the bantamweight dark horse. We had Julianna Pena gaining absolutely no fans from that performance, and this year is now cemented as the year of Alex Poatan Pereira. So in this video, we're going to be recapping all of those fights. We're going to be recapping every single fight on the card, and we are also going to be recapping all of the best moments on the card. So let's kick it off with the first fight of McGee versus Tim Means. So this fight, obviously not a lot we can actually analyze because it finished in the first round, and that's completely credit to McGee. McGee got the fight where it needed to go as a 3-1 underdog. I had Tim Means in this fight, and Tim Means usually does have a pretty good defensive wrestling game, but McGee was just not letting him breathe, just straight on him, straight against the cage, and all he was doing was trying to hunt for those takedowns, which is what he needed to do, because getting it to the ground, Tim Means is completely outmatched by McGee. McGee going into this was 8-0 submissions, and now he's 9-0. Secured the rear naked choke pretty much straight off the bat. Tim Means just didn't really have any answers on the ground, and you know, it's a great win for McGee in Utah as well, where he trains, especially at his age now as well. He couldn't have had a better performance, so a great win for him in his hometown. Moving up the card, Carla Esparza versus Tecia Pennington. Now, this was a bit controversial because Carla Esparza obviously losing. The crowd was booing the absolute shit out of Tecia Pennington when she won, which I thought was ridiculous. Because first of all, Tecia Pennington did win, and also she was actually talking about like breast cancer survivors and everything, and she was still getting booed, which is just mad. That's insane. And Carla Esparza, look, she did have a pretty decent performance overall, but I think there was just way too much just emotion surrounding her retirement. I think that's just skewed a lot of people's opinions, especially Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan, he went in there, he got emotional, he was basically crying, and then he goes back to the commentator booth and then says that Carla Esparza got robbed. She did not get robbed. It was a pretty clear 29-28 decision there, I honestly do believe. It was a super close fight. Look, Tecia, she did struggle at points on the ground. Carla did have 3 minutes and 40 seconds of control time, but what did she really do with that ground control? There wasn't really a whole lot there, aside from in the third round. I would argue that Esparza took the first round. I think that's where the 29-28 comes in. I honestly, it's that close. You could still give Tecia Pennington a 30-27, but Carla Esparza, I do think she took round one because of the predominant control time, especially in such an advantageous position, because she had pretty much a crucifix position at that point, and she was landing some decent shots, but past that, I mean, the second round, clearly Tecia, she was outlanding her, was mincing her leg to bits. Carla Esparza's leg was wrecked by the end of the third round, and that's where it really carried through into the third as well. She just kept on that leg, just destroying the front leg. Esparza was trying to get takedowns. You know, she didn't do too bad. Like, she got 4 out of 7 takedowns, but Tecia Pennington was just landing better shots overall. She was just landing much better shots, doubled her on significant strikes. That's where we really need to look at it. The significant strikes, she was just a lot better in those boxing exchanges. The leg kicks just mincing, and when Carla Esparza got the fight to the ground, there just wasn't a whole lot of action there. So Carla Esparza out of advantageous position, can see the first round, but Tecia Pennington on volume, significant strikes, 29-28, getting the second and third round without a doubt. Moving up the card, Ryan Spann versus Ovince Preux. The perfect prediction, as I said, Ryan Spann 100% was going to get this KO if he played the game smart and he didn't gas himself out, which he did. He was, obviously, he's faster and he's very good at stringing combinations together with that speed, but he just made sure that he timed the straight shots well, and that's what got Ovince Preux, caught him out. Ovince Preux was going to swing for a hook, Spann straight down the pipe, just classic counter, and Ovince Preux completely overextended. Spann got him straight down, got the high elbow guillotine choke, and that was it. I mean, Ovince Preux, just with that speed, that's the real issue there against Ryan Spann. If it was going later into the fight, because of Ovince Preux's economic-based style, then he could have found some success, but Ryan Spann did what he needed to do and got him out of there straight away. Got that high elbow guillotine. There was no chance Ovince was getting out of that. Not with that arm reach that Ryan Spann has. Just the amount of leverage that he has on that neck, it was done. So I honestly think that Ryan Spann needs like a Dustin Jacoby or someone around that area, right at the peak of the outside of the top 15, to have a top 15 eliminator fight to then get back into it. Because now in his last 4 fights, he's 1-3. So he needs an eliminator fight to get back in to the top 15. Moving up the card, Cesar Almeida versus Ihor Potieria. What? Where do we even start with this? This was insane. I don't know what the hell this referee was doing. I don't think I've ever seen him before. There are a couple refs on this card that I don't think I've ever seen before. And if they're new, it's kind of clear to say as to why. There were like 4 groin shots, 5 eye pokes, all from Cesar Almeida, and not a single point was deducted. I had Cesar Almeida in my predictions. I had him getting the finish here, which he didn't even do. And he just didn't even get a point deducted. He should have had 2 points deducted in separate rounds, because the amount of fouls that he had, half of them were in one round and then half of them were in another. He was consistently just eye poking Potieria. His hands were straight out in front. His fingers were straight out in front of him, literally just locked on to Potieria's eyes. And it's got to be so frustrating for Potieria. It does. So he's had tough competition the whole entire time he's been in the UFC, especially after his Mauricio Shogun Rua fight. And yeah, this just makes it even more frustrating for him, because he's not actually that bad a fighter. But Cesar Almeida overall, even with the fouls, he's just a better striking threat without a doubt. I mean, he's got the kickboxing pedigree there. He was landing better shots. But I will say Potieria, in terms of making it to a decision, he did do a good job of making sure that he didn't allow Almeida to just keep full mount, because Almeida obviously got him down, got him into those full mount positions. But Ihor Potieria was doing a good job of making sure that he gave up his back, because you'd rather give up your back against someone like Cesar Almeida, who doesn't have that submission offensive threat, instead of having someone that has that KO power in full mount where they're just landing bombs, which Almeida was doing, and Potieria was getting close. He was getting close to being finished without a doubt if it kept going and if he didn't turn. So good defensive awareness from Potieria, but ultimately it just wasn't enough against Almeida. Almeida's just landing much more powerful shots, clean hooks in the exchanges as well. But with his performance, dirty performance, wasn't impressive at all. And Potieria even managed to get him down almost half of his takedowns as well. So Almeida, if he's getting taken down by Potieria, he is going to be struggling with pretty much anyone above Potieria at this point, unless he can really keep it on the feet. But yeah, overall just wasn't very impressive, and it does suck for Potieria. Moving up the card, Austin Hubbard versus Alex Hernandez. Now, Hernandez, I will say, he actually did look a lot better than I originally thought he would, especially in terms of just how he's gone in the UFC so far. Obviously fighting Beneil Dariush, then beating him, then getting fed to the wolves, because he just clearly wasn't at that level. But he did look at the level of Austin Hubbard in this fight. Granted, they were completely even on the odds. It was a split decision. I mean, I'm not surprised in the least. And Austin Hubbard, I will say, like, he did have a good performance, especially in the 3rd round. But even though I had him in my predictions getting a decision, I do think Alex Hernandez did just edge this fight. I think the first 2 rounds, he was just landing the cleaner shots. He was landing the cleaner shots. He had better timing. His timing, that's the main key here. Hernandez's timing was just simply better than Hubbard's, up until the 3rd round, where Hubbard had the most decisive round, without a doubt. He hurt Hernandez multiple times, but yeah, too little too late. Hernandez obviously got it done, and his takedown defense was a lot better, but I don't think that 0 and 12 attempts from Hubbard, I don't think that's so much all credit to Hernandez. I think it's Hubbard was half-assing his takedown attempts. He didn't look comfortable actually trying to get the fight to the ground, and that was his biggest crux in this fight. If he actually fully delivered and went in on those takedowns, I think that this fight could be completely different. And that's where I said in the predictions, if Hubbard was actually going to execute that game, he would be finding a lot more success and he would be able to drown out the clock and actually get the win. But credit to Hernandez, he obviously landed more shots, better significant strike rate, and overall, yeah, he definitely did take this fight with those first 2 rounds, I do believe. And Hubbard, 3rd round, obviously body kicks, just absolutely mincing him with which he should have done earlier on, as well as, you know, just really threatening him in terms of the exchanges, just landing the better combinations. But yeah, too little, too late. 29-28 Hernandez. Moving up the card to Marina Rodriguez versus Iasmin Lucindo. Now, just like Hubbard and the Hernandez fight, this was a razor close fight. Now, in opposite to that though, me having Hubbard in the predictions and then Hernandez actually winning, I do think that Iasmin Lucindo actually did win. Very close. I do think she won. I had her in my predictions pretty much by a split decision, very close decision anyway. And that's because of the body lock control time. Overall, just the wrestling and the advantageous parts of the clinch exchanges, which was pretty surprising because Marina Rodriguez is very good with Muay Thai. She did land good shots in the clinch, but it's the end result of the clinch. It's Iasmin Lucindo getting the body lock, dragging the fight to the ground and being active on the ground. And not only that, it's Marina Rodriguez not having the transitional awareness to get back up. That is the biggest issue that she had in this fight, and that's literally what lost her the fight, because statistically, the strikes very even across the board. They were very close significantly. And that's the difference where it comes to the ground game. The ground game just swayed it in Lucindo's favor. I gave the 2nd and 3rd round to Lucindo, whereas for Marina Rodriguez, she took the 1st round. She just got off to a better start. She was really dictating the pace, especially with like 3-piece combinations. She got a straight strike straight to Lucindo's forehead, and that's where the equilibrium just went. And she was on skates. She was in a fair bit of trouble, got a bit bloodied up as well. But she just completely changed her game through the 2nd round, and that's what she needed to do. She completely swayed the momentum, and at 22 years old against a veteran like Marina Rodriguez is extremely impressive. She's gone from 14th to 6th in the rankings. That is pretty insane, and she was, as I said in predictions, she was able to take full advantage of it with that ground game. She was able to get the body locks very well coming off Rodriguez's forward pressure, and that's where she dragged out the 2nd and 3rd round. She was just doing a good job against Marina Rodriguez where Marina Rodriguez had absolutely no answers. So that's where I will say Marina, she just needs to work on that game. She wasn't digging for any underhooks. She just really didn't have anything there, and that's why she hasn't been a champion. She hasn't been a champion because she's going against fighters in the strawweight division, especially at this time period, where you have a lot of them like Verna Jandiroba, like Mackenzie Dern, like the champ Zhang Weili, who are all good with wrestling, all good with jiu-jitsu, and she just doesn't have it there. She's been fantastic in striking-oriented fights, without a doubt. She's one of the best in that division, but that's where she's losing out, and she hasn't been able to become a champion. She just doesn't have that transitional awareness off her back to get back up, and her takedown defense has been a bit lacking, as we can see in this fight. And Lucindo, she's really rounding out her game. She needs to be a bit better with her striking combinations, but her takedowns have been very good. Her control on the ground extremely good as well. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where she goes moving forward in terms of who she's going to fight next. There's definitely a lot of options there that I think they're going to give her a lot of problems, but she's 22, she's almost in the top 5. Even if she loses, she's got so much time. So very good win for her against a very tough veteran on the feet. Moving up the card, Stephen Thompson versus Joaquin Buckley. This Wonderboy was the only dog I had in this race. I didn't really care about any of the other matchups and outcomes. I just wanted carnage. And Thompson, he was doing well. He was doing well. He just didn't pull through towards the end. And ultimately, you got to give credit to Buckley in that circumstance, because he was doing such a good job of forward pressuring, and he got like pushing through with the aggressive exchanges, which is where I thought Wonderboy would be able to actually take him out in the third round. Clearly, we got the exact opposite. But Wonderboy, through the first and second round, his timing, as always, was fantastic, landing the straight strikes very well and cut Buckley as well on his eyebrow. So it was pretty evident that those shots were really doing some damage. But that's where Buckley, his pure strength, getting the takedowns against Thompson isn't easy. Got the takedown. You know, didn't threaten Thompson, obviously, with any jiu-jitsu or anything like that. He wasn't even getting into those positions, but it was just his relentless pressure. And Buckley, to take away, the most impressive thing, being in Utah at elevation, fighting those 3 rounds at that pace with that muscle mass is extremely impressive, because he didn't gas out at all. He is someone that could easily fight 5 rounds at a lower elevation level, at least, without a doubt. He looked fantastic, extremely fit, cardio on point, and yeah, he just did a good job of making sure that Thompson was against the cage most of the time, and that's where he timed that overhand against Thompson, where he was against the cage and his head had nowhere to go. And that's obviously where Buckley getting that overhand with that power that he has against Thompson's head, where it has nowhere to pull back, it was just a recipe for a KO. It was pretty clear. Happy Thompson didn't get absolutely flatlined, thank God, but yeah, there was no way he was getting back up from that. So a fantastic win for Buckley. And I think we need to see him against like a Sean Brady next, possibly to test out that ground game, or JDM to really test out that boxing pedigree. Moving on to the main card, we have Kayla Harrison and Ketlen Vieira. This fight was not really that great. It wasn't really going to be putting much stock into Kayla Harrison. And this is a real reason why I say, and I've said it before, the odds should not be that spread. You know, Ketlen Vieira, obviously she lost 30-27, which is fair enough, but it really just emphasized holes in Kayla Harrison's game. She struggles against longer opponents in terms of getting them down and fighting them in the clinch exchanges when they have some ground game basis. Like, obviously Holly Holm is a longer based fighter, but she has no ground game. Whereas Ketlen Vieira, she is someone that does, her takedown defense was actually very good. She stuffed 80% of the takedowns, and she was landing good shots. And in the clinch exchanges, when Kayla Harrison is really trying to find the position for the takedown, she leaves herself so open. Vieira landed a clean elbow that put a very nice hematoma on Kayla Harrison's forehead. And look, if she kept it on the feet and kept it going, Ketlen Vieira could have possibly even won this fight at some stage. But Kayla Harrison, the strength, getting it to the ground. And as I said, I did have Kayla Harrison by KO TKO because of the strength in the clinch and being able to get it to the ground, obviously with the judo, and using the elbows from ground and pound, using that in the full mount position or in side saddle position, which she did. She did it, but she just wasn't enough. She didn't get to use it enough, and that's credit to Vieira not allowing her to get it to the ground straight away. You got to give credit there in terms of how big of an underdog she was, but ultimately, yeah, it just wasn't enough for Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison didn't look great because she should have finished her, but yeah, it's just a blatantly simple answer. We're getting Kayla Harrison for the title, which is exactly what the UFC wants. And this win for Kayla Harrison was deserved, and they want Kayla Harrison versus Julianna Pena. Was the Julianna Pena one deserved? I mean, we'll get into that one in a second, but that's the fight that's the fight that's on everyone's mind for the bantamweight division. Moving up the card, Roman Dolidze versus Kevin Holland. Now, Roman Dolidze not winning any more fans by any means. Him and Julianna Pena definitely not. Dolidze, the king of cringe, celebrating like he has just decapitated Kevin Holland. Just no. It was just really unfortunate for Kevin Holland, busting his rib. Pretty sure there were reports that it was actually broken, and there was a clip of him going to, congratulate Joaquin Buckley. The guy could barely stand up. So he clearly did something terrible to it. I mean, he screamed very loudly. I was in a pub watching this, and the scream was so clear, and there was like a lot of background noise. So it was clear that Kevin Holland was not going to be able to continue this fight. And Roman Dolidze just goes out and thinks that, I've just absolutely destroyed this guy. It was a freak accident, Dolidze. You didn't do shit. You pretty much did nothing. I mean, he barely landed shots. Kevin Holland was landing the cleaner shots on the feet. Granted, Dolidze got him down, but you don't celebrate like that after a guy gets injured in a doctor's stoppage. It didn't even get a doctor's stoppage in the actual round. He got it after the round was done. He got it in the corner, and then he goes out doing the whole decapitating thing. King of cringe, Dolidze. And worst of all, he gets his fucking black belt for it. For what? What did he do? What did he do to get a black belt? That's ridiculous. They need some universal ruling on belt promotions, at least in MMA somehow, because this made absolutely no sense. How do you get a BJJ black belt from doing nothing but you did nothing? You just wrestled for a couple seconds. You were just on top of him. You did nothing else. I seriously just don't understand that. I had Kevin Holland KOing this guy. I thought he was going to KO him, to be honest. I reckon in this fight he 100% would have. Obviously, we won't know. Bit of copium from me, but yeah, Roman Dolidze, obviously, he's back in the, solidified in the win column, in the rankings. So we'll see what he gets next. I think he's getting too old. I think a lot of these guys have good takedown defense and everything. I think if he goes against anyone like a Michel Pereira, KO Baralho, anything like that, even a Brendan Allen, I think he's getting chinned. I think Brendan Allen will even chin him, to be honest. I just don't think Dolidze's got it anymore. At least not at middleweight. I think if he goes to light heavyweight, he'll find more success. But yeah, just a very ugly win for Roman Dolidze, and I really hope we get Kevin Holland back as soon as possible, like everyone else wants. Moving up the card, Jose Aldo versus Mario Bautista. Now this, without a doubt, was a fantastic fight. This was up there with fight of the night with obviously Alex Pereira and Khalil Rountree Jr. I had it in my predictions as fight of the night, but I'd give it to Pereira and Rountree. But this fight by itself was fantastic. I mean, Aldo came out there. He didn't look bad by any means. Split decision, clearly. He looked very good with his boxing combinations, was very clean when he was on the front foot. But that's where the issue was. Mario Bautista, I said it in the underrated fighters video. He is the dark horse. He is constantly pressuring, did not allow Aldo to be on the front foot pretty much ever in this fight, had a ridiculous amount of control time. Yes, it looked boring in certain circumstances when Aldo, was coming forward and Bautista would just shovel him against the cage and control him from the cage. But I do agree with what Bautista said. Yes, it may be boring, but it's not Bautista's fault that Aldo can't circle off the cage. Bautista, it's a simple game plan. It might be boring, but the fact is, Bautista can exercise that, reduce the risk of damage to him, while before actually getting Aldo against the cage and landing more consistent volume within the round that he's done it. Why risk it? He lands more volume in that particular round, in that third round, then he gets it against the cage, because if he puts him against the cage, he's already winning on volume. And that's where he's done a fantastic job of securing the fight. He's played it not like a fight, he's played it like the sport. And look, ultimately, as I said, might be boring, but still it's fair enough that he's done it. And look, a win like this to get him on his record, Bautista is just going to shoot through, possibly get a top 5 opponent. We don't know, but he is someone that seriously needs to be looked out for in this division. He's just very good at mixing up that speed. As I said, the speed was huge, especially coming through the first round. The first round was Bautista's, the second round was Aldo's, the third round was Bautista's. Bautista's speed in the first round, especially with his 1-2s, Very, very quick, constant head movement, dodging Aldo's check hooks. And yeah, it was frustrating Aldo at the start, without a doubt, that's for sure. And yeah, he's just landing good shots, landed a couple good shots to the body, mixed up to the legs a little bit, just to keep Aldo on his toes and guessing a bit. And yeah, I just think Bautista played a fantastic game. Obviously, credit to Aldo for not getting taken down. Stuffed all 10 of Bautista's takedown attempts. Pretty sure I saw a stat that Aldo in his last 3 fights has stuffed 30 takedowns. He's 0 and 30. His opposition 0 and 30 with takedowns. Aldo, takedown defense, absolutely elite. You got to give it to him there, but circling out off the cage, not elite. That's where Bautista obviously took advantage with that control time there. And look, he's going to be getting a very, very good fight moving up. I mean, he's got to be getting something. He's got to be getting somewhere, possibly someone around like a Marlon Vera, maybe like a Song Yadong next. Someone that can really, you know, pressure him on the feet, that has that KO power. And obviously Song Yadong, I think, would be a great matchup because of how explosive he is and how fast he is. Someone that's fast against Bautista is what we need to really test out that height of his game. And Song Yadong himself has good wrestling too, so it's very much like a mirror match kind of fight. Then Jose Aldo, 2 options here, 3 options here actually. One is that he retires. He could retire. Obviously, I don't think he should, because granted, he's gone against Mario Bautista, who has a lot of momentum on his side. He's looking very good in the division. And Aldo's 38 years old and he's at bantamweight. Cutting to that weight is credible in itself, but having the performance to do it is even more credible. So I think Aldo, he either retires or he fights one of 2 fighters. He fights Dominic Cruz, because Dom Cruz is still on the roster. Lost to Marlon Vera by a head kick. Dom Cruz versus Aldo is a fight that we just need. It's the striking, if Dom Cruz still got it, is just a fantastic thing to watch. And then Henry Cejudo. Aldo versus Henry Cejudo, just an elite GOAT matchup there. I mean, both GOAT matchups. If he gets Dom Cruz, Henry Cejudo, both GOATs. Aldo, if he gets to fight either of them, just take my money either way. Moving up to the co-main event robbery. Julianna Pena versus Raquel Pennington. Look, it was a competitive fight, and it was a close fight. And Pena did have some success on the ground at moments. She did have 1 submission attempt with the rear naked choke. But Raquel Pennington was just landing the better combinations much more clearly, had the more powerful shots pretty much every single round. And I think the judges completely screwed up on the first round. Pennington outlanded her, landed the better shots, and was just more active in the first round. Had more forward pressure, was utilizing like triple jab combinations. I don't see where Pena won that fight. Pennington won round 1, round 4, and round 5, clearly in my opinion. She was just landing more volume, had more damage, and especially the damage in those later rounds. She dropped Pena in the later rounds. But I think it's just one of those business kind of things. I reckon it's a business just screw over, because as I said with Kayla Harrison, her moving into the title picture is what the UFC needs. It's not only just the UFC, it's what that damn division needs. The division needs Kayla Harrison there. And Julianna Pena is more of a shit talker. She sells more. She's beaten Amanda Nunes. She's got that, even though people don't like her, she's got that story behind her. And I think Raquel has been royally screwed, honestly, just to have Pena versus Kayla Harrison, because that is the best fight you can make in an already struggling bantamweight division. And that is, yeah, that's what's going to make the division money. That's what's going to make those fighters money, and that's what's going to make that division be put on notice. Not Raquel Pennington. It's going to be Pena and Harrison. And Norma Dumont, if Norma Dumont is having performances like that she had against Irene Aldana, without a doubt. I think that's just where it is. I think that's plain and simple. I think it was just a business plan that has screwed Raquel Pennington, and I think that's where, honestly, we've seen it evident in some fights before. I think it's just storyline basis. I think the judges have a bit of a motive, and I think that's where it's just swayed in Pena's favor. Granted, I want to see the Pena and Harrison fight, but overall, in terms of specific matchup, this one itself, Pennington got screwed. And moving on to the main event, Alex Pereira versus Khalil Rountree Jr. I mean, let's start with Khalil. You got to give full credit to this guy. He put on an extremely entertaining fight, looked fantastic at the start of the fight, rounds 1 and 2, had Alex Pereira in trouble, had Alex Pereira hurt on multiple occasions. He came out with some of the best speed, hand speed, just movement we have seen in the light heavyweight division for quite a long time. And Alex Pereira, granted, fight IQ took over in the 3rd to the 4th round. Alex Pereira just showed why he is, without a doubt, the champion. I mean, clear as day. He pushed through adversity, tired Khalil Rountree out, and finished him in spectacular fashion. Just his combinations were flawless to get Khalil Rountree out of there, but you just can't take away from Rountree's heart. I mean, he looked great in the first 2 rounds, just his combinations, his speed. And I'm not going to lie, if this guy had any more reach and still kept up that speed, I think he could have KO'd Pereira, because he was that close to cleaning Pereira's chin. He was so close. Credit to Pereira's linear head movement though. Pereira's head movements never looked that good. It definitely surprised me in this fight. And yeah, Khalil was just putting combinations together so well, but he just couldn't reach his chin. He was so close, he just could not reach it. Pereira looked fucking massive in this fight. He looked huge compared to Khalil. I'm surprised that Khalil could even reach his chin. It was, yeah, overall, like, there's nothing to complain about in this fight from Pereira, from Khalil. It was a fantastic light heavyweight fight, and it's good because Khalil actually gave Pereira a challenge. Jiri's been absolutely destroyed. Jamahal Hill obviously killed, and we'll get into Jamahal Hill in a bit. Yeah, look, just Pereira, fantastic job overall. It just shows why he is the true champion. Khalil Rountree really stuck it in there. I mean, he was getting pieced to bits by the end of the 3rd round. End of the 3rd round into the 4th round when he got finished, his cardio was done. I was hoping at the end of the 3rd round he would catch a bit of a second win, because pretty much 3/4 of the 3rd round, his cardio was fine. It was literally just the last quarter of the 3rd round where he really started to slow down. But it makes sense. Khalil's never been full 5 rounds. He's never been into championship rounds, and his cardio was insane for that output at that elevation, similar to Joaquin Buckley. Khalil Rountree was just throwing everything, throwing so many combinations. I mean, he landed a clean hook on Alex Pereira. He landed a very nice teep kick to Pereira's body, which had him hurt. Very delayed reaction from Pereira. And then obviously eating the head kick at the end of the 2nd round, which we almost would have had a 3rd consecutive head kick KO in Utah in the main event, which is absolutely insane. We had obviously Leon, then we would have had Gaethje, then we would have had Khalil. That would have blown the roof off the place. But Pereira, his chin, his head movement, just his IQ, his patience, just really came in clutch. And it's great that Pereira stopped with the head kicks, because that's where Khalil was catching him. Pereira was so fixated on the head kicks earlier on, and Khalil just did a good job of actually, you know, capitalizing on that, getting forward and landing some decent shots, just clipping the chin. And that's where I said if the reach was longer, could have done some real damage. But this ultimately does nothing but gain Khalil Rountree so many fans. I mean, he was a bloody mess. He had about 3 liters of bloody blood hanging out of his nose, and he was still smiling in his interview with Joe Rogan. He's definitely gained a fan in me. That's for absolute sure. And yeah, just a fantastic performance both ways for both of them, even though Khalil lost. And now I think we need to let Khalil have some redemption and take out Jamahal Hill, because doing that yawning thing at the end of the fight, saying it was boring, this guy is just digging himself a grave to get absolutely no fans and no respect. Khalil, please just do the division some justice. Now, moving on to the Fight Card Awards, kicking it off with the fighter to watch, I am giving it to Mario Bautista. I have been very high on this guy through my underrated fighters video, and it's for a reason. I've done a full analysis on him in that video. If you want to check it out, I'll leave it in the description. But Bautista, this guy, getting this name on his record, getting Jose Aldo on his record, and in good fashion too. You know, not finishing him, but really being able to mix up his game, showing that he is pretty much dangerous anywhere. Obviously, he didn't get him down, but being able to deal with the striking pedigree of a guy like Aldo, who has a ridiculous amount of KOs on his career record, has destroyed so many top level fighters that are higher level than Mario Bautista, up until Mario Bautista has now fought him and showed that he is up at that level. Granted, Jose Aldo was younger at that time, but Bautista seriously is a guy that needs to be looked out for from anyone in that division, because he has the hand speed pretty much faster than most fighters in that division. Got the hand speed, has got a very diverse takedown arsenal, which if you don't have takedown defense like Jose Aldo, you're getting thrown across the place without a doubt. And yeah, he's got a chin, he's very fast, got very good head movement. There's just a lot we can say about him, but if you want to check out more about him, just check out my underrated fighters video. But yeah, honestly, fantastic performance from him. It just really played the game out to make sure he got the win, so he's showing that fight IQ there as well. And moving on to finish of the night, Alex Pereira. I mean, we can't really give it to anyone else. We could give it to Buckley, but Pereira going through that specific adversity where he got hurt multiple times, almost dropped, and then coming forward, making sure that he remain calm, composed, let Khalil kind of gas out, then just coming forward, landing just ridiculous amount of combinations. Credit to Khalil's chin, but Pereira, as soon as Khalil started shelling up, that double hook to the body just finished this fight with, like, there was no chance Khalil was coming back from that, and he painted Khalil with blood. There was blood absolutely everywhere. Pereira had to, when he won the fight, he had to get a towel and wipe all of Khalil's blood off his face. That's just a tell to show how good of a fight this was. And yeah, just to finish with the combinations itself and Pereira keeping cool, like, you can't really get a better finish than that unless it's a brutal KO finish. And that, on top of it being the main event and facing that adversity overall, got to give Alex Pereira the finish of the night. Now, moving to the third most notable moment of the card, I have to go back to the Potieria and Almeida fouls. The refereeing is seriously suspect. Like, there needs to be this clear ruling of we have this amount of fouls, so therefore these points are deducted from this type of foul, because this is ridiculous. This Potieria wasn't actually fighting too badly at all in the first round, and all this momentum from him is just getting thrown out the window because this guy is just getting free fouls. Like, Almeida is just fouling him whenever he wants. No issues, anything like that. Nothing taken away from him. You know, no disadvantage. No even positions taken away from him. Like, it's just, he just got a free win, realistically. Like, Potieria just got done out. It was pretty bad. Like, I mean, and that just, it showed Potieria in terms of his attitude, because you got to be zoned in, you got to be calm, cool, collected. Potieria was screaming at him because of all the fouls, and that's going to throw his game plan out the window. The precision goes out the window. He's, you know, you get aggressive, you overcommit. Almeida got him to the ground, landed good shots. It was just a mess for Potieria, and it is really sad to see, because he has had brutal run. Michel Pereira absolutely annihilated him, and yeah, he's just had tough fights in general. And this is another one to take for a completely unwarranted reason, which is really just unfortunate to see. And yeah, that ruling, those strict rulings just need to change. They need a universal way of being able to show, okay, this 3 eye pokes, foul. Like, 3 eye pokes is a foul, that is a point deducted. 2 eye pokes, point deducted. You need to have specific numbers. But yeah, overall, definitely frustrating for him. And moving on to number 2, got to give it to Carla Esparza and her retiring. I know there was like a lot of controversy within obviously the matchup itself with Tecia Pennington. I was more on Tecia's side, obviously, with the win there. But you got to give it to Carla Esparza in terms of just the career that she's had. I mean, she was the first ever strawweight champion. She's been a 2-time champion, one of the only ones as a female, and she came through as a pioneer. She was like one of the only like full-blown wrestlers who was training in men's divisions as well, because there was no women that were actually doing it. So she was a real pioneer in that sense. And we look how evident wrestling is in that division, particularly as I spoke about in the Marina Rodriguez matchup, and showing how prominent that is, and that a lot of that is thanks to her and showing the success of it in the women's division. And yeah, ultimately, you know, credit to her. It was an amazing fight as well. So yeah, credit to her and her retirement, and she honestly will probably be a Hall of Famer. And moving on to number one, the most notable moment of the card, Khalil Rountree's heart. This guy had a great game plan coming in. He was counted out. He just put Pereira in a lot of trouble. Never been anywhere near close to that type of trouble since he fought Israel Adesanya. And Khalil is a guy that has been the biggest underdog in pretty much Pereira's whole entire career. And Khalil gave him the second hardest fight that he's ever had. Khalil just did a great job of closing the distance, just really, you know, making sure those combinations are coming off. Was so close to clipping him, hurt him multiple times, easily took the first and second round. And going into the third and the fourth, when he was getting pieced up, blood everywhere, eye completely slit open, nose cut, blood everywhere, he was still on his feet. He was still swinging back. And I mean, Pereira, when he hits people, they're dead. Jamahal dead, Jiri dead, Strickland dead. Like, he kills them. And he was firing off like 4 or 5 piece combinations against Khalil. Khalil was still on his feet for literally like a whole entire round of getting pieced up. So you've got to give it to Khalil there. Obviously the body shots is what completely crippled him. Wasn't even him getting knocked out cold. And yeah, Khalil coming out after that war, smiling as well. He took it the best way possible. Jamahal, take notes. Yeah, Khalil just, honestly, even though he lost, just a fantastic performance from him. And Alex Pereira, on a side note, with his post-fight speech, I think he did the right thing, saying that he wants to stay at light heavyweight. Don't speak about Dricus. Don't speak about John Jones or Tom Aspinall on the spot. I don't think that's wise. And I think he's done the right thing there. Just stay in his lane. And when he wants to announce, if he wants middleweight, if he wants heavyweight, he does it in his own time, because he's earned that right. And it's the smartest thing to do to really evaluate what's the best, because he can do whatever the fuck he wants now with the wins that he is getting, finishing absolutely everyone. It is insane, and he is the face of the UFC. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more MMA based content, definitely check out my most controversial fighters in UFC history video, where we look at fighters like Strickland, where we look at fighters like Nate Diaz, and where we look at fighters like Kimbo Slice, where I go through their complete backgrounds, analyze why they are the complete heels of the UFC and why they just brought the game to a whole new level. Now, thank you guys for watching the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.